Julie Pace.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've said that Muammar Gaddafi's exit from Libya is inevitable and that the U.S. will continue with the campaign until his attacks stop. Does that also mean that you will commit the U.S. to that campaign until Gaddafi is removed from power? And would you be willing to commit additional U.S. resources if that meant speeding up Gaddafi's exit? And Prime Minister Cameron, do you believe that the U.S. and other NATO allies should increase their role in the Libya campaign, as other British lawmakers have suggested? Thank you.
I have said from the outset that our goal, the reason that we intervened in Libya, was to protect people on the ground and to give the Libyan people the space that they needed in order to bring about a change towards democracy. And I also was very clear in terms of how we were going to participate. We moved very heavily on the front end, disabling their air defense systems, carrying the lion's share of the burden when it came to setting the stage for NATO operations, and then that once the transfer took place to NATO command and control, that at that point our primary role would be a whole range of support that utilized America's unique capabilities. That's what we're doing. I also ruled out us putting any ground forces in Libya. We have proceeded consistent with that. There are times where, for example, with our Predator capabilities, we have a unique capacity that we've brought to bear, and we will continue to do that. And the Prime Minister and I consistently discuss on a regular basis what can we all do to make sure that that pressure continues to apply. I do think that it is going to be difficult to meet the UN mandate of security for the Libyan people as long as Gaddafi and his regime are still attacking them. And so we are strongly committed to seeing the job through, making sure that at minimum, Gaddafi doesn't have the capacity to send in a bunch of thugs to murder innocent civilians and to threaten them. I believe that we have built enough momentum that as long as we sustain the course that we're on, that he is ultimately going to step down. And we will continue to work with our partners to achieve that. So we have not put forward any artificial timeline in terms of how long this will take. My belief is that the more resolute that we are now, the more effective the coalition is in rallying all the resources that are available to it, that we're going to be able to achieve our mission in a timely fashion. One last point, and this speaks to the issue of whether there are other additional U.S. capabilities that could be brought to bear. David and I both agree that we cannot put boots on the ground in Libya. Once you rule out ground forces, then there are going to be some inherent limitations to our airstrike operations. It means that the opposition on the ground in Libya is going to have to carry out its responsibilities. And we're going to have to do effective coordination, and we are doing that with the opposition on the ground. But I think that there may be a false perception that there are a whole bunch of secret, super effective air assets that are in a warehouse somewhere that could just be pulled out and that would somehow immediately solve the situation in Libya. That's not the case. The enormous sacrifices that are being made by the British, by the French, by ourselves, by the Danes, and others, we are bringing to bear an array of air power that has made a huge difference. But ultimately, this is going to be a slow, steady process in which we're able to wear down the regime forces and change the political calculations of the Gaddafi regime to the point where they finally realize that they're not going to control this country. The Libyan people are going to control this country. And as long as we remain resolute, I think we're going to be able to achieve that mission. But there's not a whole host of new and different assets that somehow could be applied, partly because we've been extraordinarily successful in avoiding significant civilian casualties. And that's been part of our goal. That's been part of our mission, is making sure that we are targeting regime forces in a way that does not result in enormous collateral damage. And that means we may have to sometimes be more patient than people would like. But ultimately, I think it promises greater success, and it sustains our coalition and support for it, not just here, but in the Arab world as well.
Thank you. I so agree that the two key things here are patience and persistence. That is what the alliance is demonstrating and needs to go on demonstrating. Julie, I'd just make 2 points. First of all, I think the President and I completely agree on this point of course, the UN resolution is not about regime change. The UN resolution is about protecting civilians from attack and taking all necessary measures to do so. But that said, most political leaders, including the two here, have said it's hard to see how you implement UN Resolution 1973 with Gaddafi still in control of his country, which is why we've been so clear about Gaddafi needing to go and needing to leave Libya. In terms of the US role, I would make this point, which I'm not sure is widely understood in Britain or in Europe, is already a huge number of the sorties and the support and the air assets that are actually bringing the pressure to bear are US assets. There was this enormous effort at the beginning, as the President said, but also a sustained amount of assets that have been used. And as the President said, there are also the unique assets and capabilities that the US has that others don't have that are so vital. And as he said, we all have to ask, what is it that we can all do to make sure the pressure is really brought to bear? That is what the British are doing, the French are doing, the Americans are doing, and I know we'll discuss this in the margins of the G8. But I'd just make this point as well as the military pressure. Don't underestimate the pressure of building up the opposition, the contacts we have with the National Transitional Council, the fact that they are opening offices and building support and strength from the allies. Don't underestimate the extent to which we're now cutting off oil products to the regime because they're using them in their tanks and their other military equipment. And also the other steps that I know Americans and others are taking to try and release Libyan assets back into the hands of the National Transitional Council and recognizing them as the right interlocutor for us to speak to. So in all those ways, we can keep this pressure up over the coming period while showing patience and persistence at the same time.